to really see something that said, take a look what happened.
I was saved by God to make America great again.
Welcome back to another 4547blog.com presentation of the New Conservative Radio Show. I'm your host, Ninj, and you can catch us on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and everywhere else you get your major podcasts. Find our reruns on YouTube, and we go live every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern on Rumble. Our social media handle is 4547blog, and we're on X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Stop by 4547blog.com to donate to the show, buy our digital blogazine, or get geared up at the merch store. Thank you for joining me today, folks. Today we're going to get into China, the tariffs, Chinese sentiment on these tariffs, the effects on the Chinese economy, and we're going to end off the show with the Maryland man, the MS13 gang member, and the bullshit surrounding that with the left. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
So do you want to know the part that they're not telling you about tariffs? Here's the reality that nobody's talking about. Nobody. This lighter costs $25 in America to buy an American-made product, okay? China makes one, sells it for $20 here in America. Out of that $20, $5 goes to whoever in America sells it. $15 of it goes back to China. You buy the $25 one in America, all $25 stays in America. So now we want to say, let's balance this out, and we're going to put a 50% tariff on Chinese goods. Now this lighter costs $30 to sell in the United States. Now you have the U.S.-made one at $25. It is cheaper. It's more expensive in the big picture, I get it, but it's now cheaper, so people are going to buy the American-made one. 100% of the $25 that you spend stays in America, stays here. The demand increases for that business has to hire employees. When many businesses hire employees, that creates a supply shortage of employees, which make wages go up. Is this more expensive for the consumer in the short term? Yes, but you're getting a better product. You're getting a better product for your money, and the money is staying local. Okay, you're not funding these other countries and their businesses. That is the purpose behind all of this. Will we have a recession? Yes. Will prices go up in the short term? Yes. But the lagging effect is all of that money now stays here with us. It's not leaving the country, which gives us more money in the United States to go around for everybody. Of course, every nation in the world is going to say, we're being bad neighbors and bad business partners. Well, of course, we've made them rich. And now we as a people are suffering. We want our money back. Why is that so hard? It's not ideal, but it works and it makes sense. And I'm not a pro-Trumper at all, but I believe in it. I'm a business owner.
$20 trillion in spending power. That's the American consumer. Every global CEO wants in. But under President Trump's Liberation Day order, there's a new rule. Hire American or go home. This is our market, our labor, our future. The days of selling to us while shipping jobs away are over. We're taking it back. America first, workers first. Let's build it right here.
Contrary to what you would be led to believe by the mainstream media, especially leftist media, people are starting to understand what these tariffs are doing and what they're going to do in the long run. All the money that is being paid, other than probably for raw materials, unless these manufacturing companies are actually purchasing raw materials here in America, which I don't see that happening for at least a few years. But all the money is going to be staying in here from the manufacturing process on, because we are the biggest consumer market. Unless those people are sending over to Europe. But again, like, the main market on the planet is here in America. So American country or companies that are manufacturing within our country are going to have the biggest benefit because they're not going to have any tariffs. Eventually, anybody who wants to make money in the American economy will manufacture here. And from the manufacturing process all the way through, those dollars will stay here in America and stimulate the American economy. And like this guy said, that's going to create employee shortages, which then drive wages up. They say, oh, we don't have enough people to fill these jobs, so let's bring in a bunch of illegal immigrants who we can pay absolutely no fucking dollars to, and then advocate literally for slavery on American soil again. They're not black, they're Mexican, so it doesn't really matter, right? Like, this shit that they're openly saying is insane. This guy's talking about a recession. Nobody knows if there's going to be a recession. So him saying recession, yeah, absolutely. I can't agree with that. Inflation is down, everybody. If inflation was going up, I think we would have something more to worry about. But inflation is down for now. We'll see how this plays out in the long run, but recession I don't think is in the cards. I think that's a leftist scaring tactic, saying that, oh my God, we're going to go into recession. But this is the exact same thing that the left was talking about when Trump did tariffs last time. We hold the cards. This is the American economy. We hold the cards. If you want access to our economy, you're going to have to play by our rules. And China right now doesn't want to play by the rules. The rest of the world is seeing what's happening to them. We're now at 245% tariffs. Does anybody else want to be there? No, because nobody wants to be shut out of our market. So we do hold the cards. It's America first. And these people need to understand that, well, not these people, but these countries, they need to understand where we're coming from. We've been screwed out of our economy. We've been screwed out of our manufacturing. We've been screwed out of the things that created our middle class, and we want it back. It's no surprise that the young people are pissed off at the state of our country. And you know what? Middle-aged people are too, and old people. Not everybody's a leftist in this country. Let's roll this clip with Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins.
Well, first of all, I think it's really important to realize that what President Trump is doing in his vision and his leadership is to completely realign the world economy, but in so doing, put America first and therefore American farmers first. For decades, the way that we have been treated in this country, and especially our farmers and ranchers, is absolutely stunning. We have been living under the regime of other countries. You know, Japan with a 700% tariff on our rice, Brazil with an almost 20% tariff on our ethanol. The EU takes less pork with 450 million people than does Honduras with 10 million people. It is one thing after another. I didn't realize how egregious it was until I took this job. The job president is working to fix it. I know that our farmers and our ranchers realize that we're in a hopefully short period of uncertainty, but ultimately, I believe the age of prosperity for all Americans, but especially for this segment, will be unprecedented.
With the history that the world has of bad policy that's been hurting American farmers, hurting American industry for decades now, all Trump is trying to do is realign the world economy, just like Brooke Rollins said here, and put America at the top of the list with us in the favor, because we are the ones with the biggest economy. If they're going to be pulling billions and billions of dollars out of our economy, we should be able to access their economy and sell whatever we want there. Prosperity will be unprecedented once all this stuff comes back, for sure. How can having more manufacturing jobs in America, more power plant jobs in America, how can the trickle down from that be negative to the economy? Ask one leftist to explain that to you. Please explain that to me. Leave a comment below. If you know how bringing manufacturing back is going to negatively impact our next generations of Americans, please elaborate in the comments below. Let's not forget that China hasn't been a fair partner in this relationship since the beginning. So all the way back to Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton thought that he had negotiated some kind of great deal where a bunch of American companies were going to be able to go into China and we were going to have access to that economy. And what ended up happening is exactly what Stephen Miller explains in this next clip. They stole a whole bunch of our intellectual property and copycatted a whole bunch of our mainstream products and then sold it to the rest of the world. Let's go ahead and run this clip with Stephen Miller.
How China has distorted the entire global trading system through decades of intellectual property theft, trademark theft, copyright theft, industrial espionage, currency manipulation, illegal subsidization of critical industries, targeted dumping to destroy core manufacturing capacity in other countries so that they cannot protect and defend themselves in a time of national emergency. These are state-led policies from China that require redress, and the only scandal is that it took so long for us to finally have a president in Donald Trump who will protect and defend America from these abuses, while every other president, Democrat and Republican, allowed China to plunder us to a degree that was so savage and so total, it honestly eclipses the imagination.
Really makes you think where the intentions of these congresspeople and presidents were in the past when they found out what the effects of manufacturing leaving the United States was doing to America, and they didn't create any policies to change it. You don't think that they know that national security is a threat when we don't manufacture anything here in America? If we were to go to a major war or somebody were to try to invade America, heaven forbid they try to do that, because you're going to have to kill us all. There's just too many guns here. That's why the Japanese didn't invade. But I digress on that one. What China's intentions have been since the very beginning were to destroy America's manufacturing capabilities, to weaken us as a country, not only economically but militarily, where we're dependent upon Russia or China or any other country to create our bullets or to create our weapons. And they've been successful. And now that we, have shined a light on this issue and we're changing it, the people who have benefited from all of this trade or moving their manufacturing products over to China are the ones bitching about it. It's major companies. It's people around the world who are invested in these companies through the stock market. They're shorting the American stock market right now to rebel against Trump, to protest. They don't want to make money. They're going to pull all their money out. But do you think these people are going to pull all their money out for 4 years and not make any money for 4 years? Because I don't. These greedy ass people are going to hold their money out for a month or two maybe, and then they're going to put it back in the stock market. And what is that going to do? It's going to boost the stock market, and everybody's going to be making money. Let's go ahead and continue this clip with Stephen Miller.
The original 20% IEPA, that's the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, for China poisoning our citizens with fentanyl, that 20% rate is and continues to be applied to all imports from China. When the president issued his reciprocal tariffs, our government at the time specifically said that chips and semiconductors, which are critical components of our national security, were going to be dealt with through a separate commerce authority known as a 232. That was always the plan, because those components are so essential to our national security. We need to have a separate process for dealing with how to reshore those essential industries.
What we're witnessing here at home is the effects of China's long-term plan being implemented. They wanted to long take over the economy here in America. They wanted to long take over our ability to defend ourselves, and they've committed to doing it silently without firing any shots. And how do you do that? You got to affect somebody's economy. You've got to affect their ability to defend themselves, and they have been successful thus far. It's great that we're opening up our eyes right now, but one thing that's not really being talked about too much in the mainstream media is the effects of these tariffs on China and China's citizens. China's citizens are feeling the squeeze right now. They are not in a good place, and China could literally go to civil war. Their younger population, just like ours, is fed up with the way that the older generation has run our country and left them with the hardest start out of any generation thus far, to be able to get a house, to be able to fall into a good job. I mean, college is now like triple the amount that our parents paid, that our grandparents paid. And it only keeps on getting worse. And yeah, you can accredit it to inflation, but no, you can't accredit all of it to inflation. It's greedy pockets. And that brings me to the Chinese segment that I had prepared for you guys. China, again, it's not doing well, and the effects of these tariffs are widespread, not just one area, but 5 of the major industrial complexes on the shore and 3 more major industrial complexes that are inland. China, they're so dependent on America that these tariffs are ripping apart their economy and creating flashpoints. And China hasn't been so stable even before Trump came into office about a year ago. A lot of companies were leaving China already. So the move of manufacturing away from China, these companies are going to cause a massive recession, which China's already feeling it. But let's go ahead and get into this clip.
Yiwu International Trade City, the world's largest wholesale market, stands largely empty as foreign trade workers in the region watch their decade of hard work unravel. The province of Zhejiang, which includes Yiwu Market, has been hit hardest by the ongoing U.S.-China tariff war. Located in eastern China, Yiwu Market has faced severe setbacks as American customers have largely disappeared.
If the CCP actually had the best interests of their population in mind, they wouldn't be going tit for tat against the United States in these tariffs. A 245% tariff is unbearable, and who in America, even any kind of a supplier, who is going to buy from a manufacturer in China that they're going to have to pay 2.5 times the amount to get over? So if you're buying, a $10 stuffed animal, now it's going to cost you $35 just to get into the United States before you make any profit. So a $10 stuffed animal that maybe costed $20 or $30 in America retail is now going to cost, somewhere around $100, $150. Basically, MSRP, the rule is you want to charge 2.5 to 4 times the amount it costs you to manufacture. So if it costs you 10 cents to manufacture, you want to be charging 40 cents retail. These are standard retail practices and profit margins that a lot of companies go by. And if there's no demand, nobody's going to be buying in America, the biggest market in the world. Then these manufacturers, they either stop manufacturing or they're going to sit on a bunch of surplus, which is already happening because people had orders that they just completely canceled. They just stopped. Let's go ahead and get into some of these TikToks that were from some Chinese citizens.
The U.S.-China trade war has had a significant impact on our factory. We've been operating a shoe factory in Xinjiang, Fujian, for nearly 40 years. In the past, we used to manufacture for over 20 brands. However, about 50% of these brands are from the U.S. market, which means we will not be able to receive nearly 50% of our U.S. orders this year. Those orders have shifted elsewhere. Our factory employs over 3,000 workers, and we cannot afford to stop. The assembly lines cannot stop, and production must continue. So our primary focus moving forward will be developing our own brand.
This lady is literally admitting to intellectual property theft. She's just going to take whatever she was manufacturing that was for an American company and then put her own logo on it. They're developing their own brand using the intellectual property of another company. And this is stuff that America has been trying to stop. How is this good for any American company? If you spend a bunch of time developing an item, let's say you spend years developing something like a new pair of sunglasses, and they become a hit. You put all this research and development and tried a bunch of different designs, and you finally found something that's a hit. And so you try to get it manufactured, and the only place that it's going to manufacture at a good price is going to be in China. And then something like the tariffs hit. So you have to move your manufacturing to the next cheapest place in Brazil or Mexico. But China, instead of not manufacturing your glasses anymore, they take your intellectual property, continue to manufacture your sunglasses, and then inundate the rest of the world with it, taking basically what you would design and put everything that you had worked hard into and stealing it and taking it right out from under you. And there's not a goddamn thing you can do because it's the Chinese Communist Party. What are you going to do, go to China and sue them? No, you can't do that no matter what. It's not realistic. And it has many, many manufacturers sitting on a surplus of products. Let's go ahead and roll this next clip.
大不了过往赚过的钱全赔继续，相当于过往的10年白干了，没关系。
At worst, we'll lose all the money we've made in the past. It's like the last 10 years of work were for nothing, but that's fine. Today, another customer told us to stop shipping a container we've already cleared through customs. They want us to withdraw it, and the shipping company told me the problems we have for withdrawing a 60,000 yuan container. The issue here is that this container is for fireworks, and there are several important problems. First, do we continue shipping after customs clearance? And what about goods that have been made but haven't been loaded into containers yet? This is a real issue. Can you think of a customer right now who would say, "I'll place the order for you"? As you know, in traditional foreign trade, the most customers will do is give you a deposit. And right now, in the fireworks industry, the hardest part is that our prime shipping period is in April. April is our deadline. If we don't ship in April, we won't make it in time for the July 4th celebrations. To meet that deadline, all containers must be fully packed by April. So now, during this peak shipping time for the fireworks industry, this happens. It's a blow to our entire industry.
This is a common theme across all of the manufacturing industries, from textiles to electronics to even things like fireworks. The uncertainty of when products are going to be tariffed and what the tariff rate is going to be was all clarified in Trump's executive order. I think that was episode 4 that we released, but we went through the entire episode, or the entire executive order. I read the whole thing on the show. So there should be no gray area on pricing and what tariffs are going to be paid when a shipping vessel reaches America, as long as their bill of lading or their ship and package dates match the bill of lading. Then they'll be taxed accordingly, according to what tariff was in place. The amount of tariff at 245% is what is affecting this the most. American companies are not going to be paying that much money to get a product to come over to America and then try to make a dollar on it. It's not going to happen. They're going to lose money, and they know that, so they're not even trying. They're going to go and find a different place to purchase these manufactured goods from. Period. It's not like China is the only place who manufactures on the planet, but they do most of the manufacturing. And their government has had a plan all along to subsidize these manufacturing goods and kill manufacturing across the planet. When you kill manufacturing across the planet, then your enemies are basically being disarmed for a long war. They would have to build manufacturing plants to even keep up with ammo stocks. And these are things that we need to really think of, because manufacturing isn't only good for the economy, it is good for national security, and we got to keep on thinking that. Like, we need to be able to defend ourselves. Even though it's a plastic making company, it can be converted in a time of war, and we need to have these places here in America. But let's go ahead and roll this next clip.
Today is Saturday, the usual day we send containers to the U.S. West Coast. On April 12th, several logistics companies were loading containers, but stopped altogether. The tariff war has truly hit us harder than expected. Today, I helped a customer resolve 3 oversized shipments. There's no choice. The goods must go. We still have to ship even if it's a loss. I had to help them solve the issue, but the shipping costs doubled. Rates increased by $8 per kilogram, rising between 34% and 145%. I can't speak for cross-border e-commerce, but traditional trade is really facing a huge crisis. Today is April 11th. The 2 containers and loose cargo we were sending to our U.S. clients have already been returned. The first container, a 40-foot high cube, was returned today.
Chatting with a few business owners in Shanghai who are in foreign trade, and I realize their business is really tough. To be honest, the tariff hikes aren't even the worst part. The most frustrating thing is that you can't predict the tariffs. Let me give you an example. In the past, if the tariff for exporting to the US was 20%, it was 20%, even if it later went up to 120%. Both sides can negotiate and split the costs, maybe 50% for one side, or even the entire cost for the Chinese side. There was at least some certainty. But now the problem is much bigger. When the goods are shipped out, the tariff might be 120%, but when they reach a U.S. port a month later, it could have jumped to 200%. Who could handle that?
And let's not forget that some of this stuff is made by the Chinese, Communist Party. It's all propaganda. When something is shipped, it's shipped with a date on it. And in the executive order, it went through a lot of dates and times that things became effective, because they didn't want this kind of stuff happening and it affecting the American business. So this is propaganda. It's all bullshit. When you load something on a ship, a date and time is on the bill of lading, and then through points of travel, it's updated until it gets to you. Anybody who does shipping and receiving knows this. The first guy said that they're facing a huge foreign trade crisis, which it is a huge crisis between America and China, but The people who are going to be affected by that most is going to be China. They're the ones who are producing it. They're the ones super involved. They are dedicated to serving the American economy. That's where they're making their money from. They subsidized their manufacturing to a point where we had to get rid of our manufacturing because we couldn't afford it. And now we're not going to allow them to send anything into our country when they depend on that money, because their country does not consume the way that our country does. No other country on the planet consumes like the United States of America. Chinese manufacturing companies are facing these returns from American buyers because of the CCP trying to hit the United States back tit for tat with tariff for tariff. This isn't something that they can do because they are blocking their own people out of the American market. They are fucking themselves, and there's no other way to explain it. The Chinese people are recognizing it also because the first people who are affected by it are the people who work in the factories that lose their jobs. When you don't need to be making as much shit, guess who's not there anymore? The people making the stuff. Let's go ahead and roll this next clip.
We're in trouble now. The tariff war has hit us hard, and now no one at the factory has any motivation. Look, a lot of goods are piled up here. All production activities have stopped. It's not just that we can't sell to the US. We can't sell to other countries either. We can only sell within our own country now, and even the leftover scraps can't be sold. What are we supposed to do? There's no solution.
The people that the CCP are going to piss off are the Chinese people. These people have been used to an open economy with the United States for however long, and then all of a sudden Trump wants to negotiate some tariffs with them, and they keep escalating it. And the Chinese people are seeing it for what it is, that the CCP just keeps escalating, that they think that they can win some kind of a war. They can't win this war. They don't have the ability to win it. It's not manpower that wins this war. It's an economy, and we have a consumption economy, and they don't. It's pretty simple. The Chinese are beginning to panic because they're seeing their jobs go away. They're seeing so many people return to their home villages without any money, without any kind of a future ahead of them, except for it looks very bleak. Now, a lot of people are talking about the Chinese are selling off American treasury bonds to devalue the American dollar. The fact of the matter is that the Chinese economy, or the CCP, they hold less than 3% of the total treasury bonds. And if they sold all of their treasury bonds, which is less than $1 trillion, yes, it would definitely devalue the American dollar. But the fact of the matter is that there's no evidence that the Chinese, that the CCP are selling off American treasury bonds in the first place. The number one holder of American treasury bonds is Japan. And we have a good relationship with Japan right now. And Japan is also saying that they're not going to sell off any of their treasury bonds because of the tariffs. So that I want to debunk right here. There is no devaluing of there is no selling off or mass selling off of the American treasury bonds to devalue the American dollar. This is just a story, a narrative that the left is pushing to fearmonger, whatever. It's their normal play. It's a page out of their normal everyday playbook. The fact of the matter is that China takes over $500 billion from America every year. We buy over $500 billion worth of goods from China every year. Do you think that China's economy can get rid of just $500 billion to its people and not suffer any kind of consequences? We're the ones with the money, so we're not going to be spending that money. So that money stays with us. Do you think it's going to affect us more or less? This is economics, and I don't think the left understands anything like it. The money in your pocket to the money that you're spending. They're idiots. This next clip dives into the economics of China and how these tariffs are affecting individual provinces within China. Let's go ahead and roll this next clip.
The province of Zhejiang, with a 71.4% reliance on U.S. exports, is no doubt at the heart of the storm. Other provinces such as Guangdong, Shanghai, Jiangsu, and Fujian, all key and coastal economic powerhouses, are also facing significant challenges. Data from China's General Administration of Customs reveals that Latin America saw the largest growth in exports from China in 2024, with a 13% increase, followed by ASEAN with a 12% growth. The U.S. remains China's largest export market, with exports to the country totaling $524.7 billion in 2024, accounting for about 1/7 of global exports. Other top markets include Vietnam, Japan, South Korea, India, Russia, Germany, Malaysia, and the UK. According to 2024 data, the top 5 provinces in terms of reliance on exports relative to GDP are Zhejiang at 71.4%. It depends heavily on commodities and electromechanical products. Guangdong at 68.3%, where the electronic information industry has been significantly impacted. Shanghai, 52.4%, where high-end manufacturing and financial trade have been affected, with Tesla facing double taxation pressures. Jiangsu at 43.9%, where machinery and electronics are facing declining orders, and Fujian at 40.9%, which is heavily reliant on U.S. exports while also having active trade with Taiwan.
Did you catch where she said that Tesla is facing double taxation measures? Now, the big narrative from the left is that Donald Trump is trying to get the billionaires rich and get Elon Musk more rich individually, which if that was the case, I don't think he would be putting Elon Musk in a position to be double taxed in China. You think he would be, trying to negotiate with China. We hold all the cards again, everybody. We hold the cards. The original plan, once we announced tariffs in the beginning, the Chinese were trying to, send delegations across the world and trying to figure out ways that they could replace our market with other markets and get other countries to say, yeah, we're going to buy this or that from you now, so that they could count their money and say, okay, do we need America or not? The problem with that is it didn't work out in their favor. A lot of countries around the world said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and go with America. Fuck you. And China didn't like it. So that's why they're doing this. They're sitting there in their corner and they're going tit for tat with America, even though there is no benefit to the Chinese economy at all. And they're going to continue to put out Chinese propaganda on TikTok to try to, stir up the American beehive, the left, and try to give them a reason to fight. As long as there's confusion in what's going on, there can be two sides of a fact. Because nobody knows the real fact because there's confusion mixed in, right? Well, not nobody knows, but only the intelligent people know, and then the retards, they can turn it and twist it and make that fact work for them. We've all seen it, but that's how it goes. At the end of the day, the Chinese people are going to end up feeling this more than the American people, and the Chinese people are going to feel some type of way about it. But let's go ahead and roll this next video and get some more facts.
Posts on Weibo and Xiaohongshu have discussed how the tariff war is impacting different regions, industries, and job opportunities in China. Some have pointed out that Yiwu in Zhejiang has been hit particularly hard, while Guangdong, the leading foreign trade province, has suffered the most. Companies in Shenzhen have lost orders, and vacancy rates in Dongguan's electronics factories have surged to 18%. Others have reported that the tariff war has led to a showdown in Ningbo, Zhejiang, and a decline in Yiwu's small commodity market. Zhejiang people are known for their ambition to do business in the U.S., and American consumers have traditionally favored Zhejiang's products. In fact, Yiwu's small commodity market was even called a barometer for the U.S. presidential election. The impact extends beyond coastal areas. Provinces such as Chongqing, Sichuan, and Henan, despite lacking seaports, have strong international logistics networks. These regions are highly dependent on the U.S. market and rely on air, road, rail, and water transport to export goods to the U.S., which make up over 15% of their exports.
This isn't a problem that's just affecting one area in China. It's affecting many provinces across China, which is in turn affecting millions of people. And the sentiment for the CCP in China is going to dwindle. When you don't have a job, you can't feed yourself, you can't shelter yourself, you can't clothe yourself, you get pissed. This is going to cause the downfall of Chinese manufacturing is going to cause the Chinese stock markets to lose value. There's so much money that is being lost in China. Everything Chinese is going to lose value. There's companies that are thinking about delisting from American stock markets. The Chinese sentiment right now matches those of right-wing Americans. because the Chinese know that they're going to be the losers in any fight that has to do with tariffs or trade with the United States of America. Let's go ahead and roll this next clip.
The ongoing tariff war is also severely impacting China's foreign trade industry, leading to significant drops in orders. Foreign trade companies in Guangdong, Jiangsu, and other provinces have stopped placing orders with factories, forcing some workers to take unpaid leave or face layoffs. As the storm continues, many predict that this economic struggle between the US and China will not end quickly. What I'm most afraid of is negotiating with the US. Whenever we try to negotiate, we always end up losing. Let's not talk about how powerful Trump is for now, but those 34 big financial players on Wall Street, those are the top global players. Trump dares to raise tariffs so aggressively because he knows other countries won't dare to team up against him. With the US in its dominant position, whoever they negotiate with is at a disadvantage. In the end, others will always have to make concessions. For Americans, this move is absolutely a win-win. Short-term market fluctuations are inevitable, but I'll bet that US stocks will rebound quickly. The price hikes and inflation caused by the tariffs won't be paid by the American people, but by us, the exporting countries. To keep our exports, we'll have to devalue our currency. When the dollar appreciates, it can offset inflation pressure. In the end, we're the ones losing out. The situation is likely worse than we think. It took the US 70 years to surpass the UK. It's not going to be easy for us to catch up, so don't be too optimistic. The effects of this tariff war will definitely be long-term.
Now listen to this Chinese woman when she says the exporting countries will pay the tariffs, not the American citizens. And this is the thing that the left has been screaming the entire time. But the left doesn't own companies. They don't understand. If you're an American company and you're negotiating a product and there is a shipping fee that is out of control because you're in a country that is fucking stupid and sucks in America, do you think that the negotiator is going to negotiate paying those shipping fees, or are they going to put that shipping fee on the supplier to get a better deal? You just tell me what you're going to do. In your power to negotiate on buying 1 million units of this or 1 million units of that, are you going to include in there trying to get the best deal that you can, or are you going to say, okay, there's a 245% tariff on my goods, so I'll just eat all that? No, you're going to try to negotiate with the supplier, or else make the supplier eat as much of that as you can, or you're going to take your business elsewhere. And a supplier knows that. They're trying to get rid of things, so they're going to try to include the price of the shipping in all of their goods and give the best deal. Americans are only going to win in the very end. It's not like we are forced to buy these products. We don't live in the Chinese Communist Party where we have to go and buy a TV when they say to go buy a TV, or go buy a new jacket when they tell you to. This isn't how things work, so that isn't really a logical explanation of what's going on. In the end, China loses. No orders, no money, no economy. It's pretty much that simple. It comes down to those things. If you ain't getting orders, you ain't getting money, you can't drive an economy. You have absolutely no economy. There's no exchange of money happening. Nobody's getting paid. Everybody's eating tree bark and grass or whatever. It doesn't get much more simple than that, and I think that the left is trying to make this into some kind of complex, hard-to-understand situation that the American consumer is going to be the one who is punished because we're not going to be able to buy shitty Chinese products anymore. There are so many more other manufacturers on this planet that create better products that are the exact same that the Chinese actually intellectually stole the property from. We might have to purchase more expensive things for the time being, but we're going to get more quality. It's buy nice or buy twice, people. We all know that. You buy some piece of shit, it breaks, you got to buy it again. Buy nice, buy twice. The Chinese government right now is making the Chinese people suffer, and it's because a hard head makes a soft ass. They don't have the cards to play the game that they're playing, and they keep on betting high and losing every single time. The Chinese people are a smart people, and they're recognizing what's going on. This next clip is a guy who is a business owner, and he understands that having the American market equals having the success of China. But let's go ahead and roll this next clip.
I really can't stand it anymore these past 2 days. Stop talking about raising tariffs, We're not in some hot-blooded script where we go head-to-head just for pride. Acting tough is a dead end. Making money is the real deal. The U.S. has 350 million people and controls 1/3 of global consumption. Do you know what that means? It means out of every $3 spent in the world, one comes from an American. The EU, with 450 million people, doesn't even match a fraction of that. We, with our 1.4 billion people, are grinding day and night to manufacture goods. Yet our consumption power is only 1/5 of the U.S. The numbers are right there. Yelling about how America is being a bully doesn't put food on the table. The dollars in their wallets are global business. It's the world's passport for trade. All the people shouting, "We don't need the U.S. market." Wake up. You try selling goods in Southeast Asia? You get paid in ringgit. Sell in South America? You get pesos. The exchange rate alone can bleed you dry. Sell to the U.S.? You're earning dollars. Despite the war in Ukraine dragging on like this, the U.S. dollar still sits firmly on the throne as the world's reserve currency. That's reality. Without access to the dollar system, you're not even allowed into the game of international trade. Don't give me that pivot to Asia and Africa talk. How's Africa going to buy your appliances when many places don't even have electricity? India looks promising, but they'll delay payments until you go bankrupt. Only the U.S., with its 300+ million middle-class citizens, is sitting there with cash in hand, waiting. No tricks, no I owe us. Even with sanctions in place these past 2 years, it's still the cleanest, most reliable market in the world. Compared to those places where bribes and kickbacks are the norm, the U.S. is basically business heaven. And here's something you need to remember. Capital is smarter than you. Whether it's sovereign funds from the Middle East, oil money, or pension funds from various countries, all that money floods into the U.S. stock market. You think those countries don't want to act tough too? But the truth is, without the U.S., the global consumption engine, your products don't even have the chance to be sold at a loss just to make noise. Count on Russia, on aging markets. They're all selling off resources just to keep breathing. It's easy to curse American hegemony. What's hard is recognizing the truth. The global supply chain is built on one thing. Whoever holds the purchasing power is the boss. The U.S. holds 1/20th of the world's population, but soaks up 1/3 of the world's consumption. That's absolute market dominance. You can call it domineering, but you can't deny reality. When 70% of your manufacturing relies on exports and 80% of your foreign reserves come from trade, losing access to the U.S. market means cutting off your own income stream. To those who shout they'd rather not earn American money, listen up. Ordinary people need to eat, companies need to pay salaries, and the state needs to collect reserves. If you play hardball with the U.S. and it turns into mutual destruction, who suffers in the end? It's the factory workers, the small business owners, the regular folks whose livelihoods depend on exports. In the face of overwhelming market power, posturing is the biggest stupidity of all. If you need to bow your head at the negotiation table, then bow. If you need to offer concessions, then offer them. Right now, keeping the rice bowl is more important than anything else. I may just be a random high schooler, but in the business world, there's no such thing as dignity, only supply and demand. The U.S. market scale speaks louder than any slogan. Instead of yelling about fighting back, think about how to earn money under their rules. Once your pockets are full of dollars, then you can talk about upgrading your industries and moving away from the dollar. Until then, it's all just nonsense. Bowing your head to earn money isn't shameful, but betting ordinary people's lives on some misplaced sense of pride, that's the real foolishness. In my narrow opinion, if it means everyday folks can live better, even earning money on your knees is no big deal.
Everything this gentleman is saying makes a lot of sense. And that's the sentiment of the Chinese people. They're not a bunch of morons. They understand what's going on around them. They understand and they recognize that the posturing of their government is stupid and not beneficial to them. They know that the U.S. holds 1/3 of the purchasing power of the entire planet, and that our market is the market that they want to be in if they want to be able to be profitable. $500 billion plus a year not going to their economy is going to have an effect. It's going to play some kind of an effect on their economy and the quality of living of their people. But that's enough about China for today. Let's go ahead and get into our next topic. Let's go ahead and get into this clip about immigration.
As an immigrant myself, I find it ironic we're putting so much effort. In one case in El Salvador, when we have about 1.5 million highly skilled workers that are on backlog that we want to have in our country, and some of them have to be sent scientists, artists, people like me that spend 10 years waiting to be naturalized as a citizen through the right process. Imagine if that same energy was put into repatriating that brain drain that we have. But the priorities, get politicized, and we're chasing a ghost while we're losing talent to Canada, the UK, Australia, whatever, where a lot of these merit-based migrants go because we haven't figured that out for our own nation. So it's ironic, and those of us that have followed the process feel the pain of the double standard that comes with this kind of story.
This is such a good point that the left is advocating for a man who is not even a legal immigrant. He is an illegal immigrant with domestic violence on his rap sheet. The dude beat up his baby's mama in Maryland. That's the kind of people they want to advocate for, instead of advocating to do legal immigration and get the people who are on the books, trying to make it the right way quicker. No, we want to advocate for the people who are already here, who crossed our borders illegally, committed a crime, who are criminals or gang members, instead of advocating for immigrants that we need, highly skilled immigrants that are waiting to enter through the correct process. This makes no fucking sense at all, but this is the left. They never make sense. Let's go ahead and roll the next clip.
The media has taken a very specific term in describing Abrego Garcia. Very remarkably consistent. Listen to it.
The Supreme Court orders the Trump administration to return the Maryland father who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador's notorious prison.
A Maryland father.
A Maryland father.
A Maryland father.
He will not return the Maryland father.
Trump administration claims it is not required to bring back Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland father wrongfully deported to a notorious prison in El Salvador.
There's also a Maryland mother, and we have her picture up, Kellyanne. Maryland mother, 37-year-old Rachel Morin, who was killed on a jog. She had 5 children, and her killer was convicted, an illegal immigrant, in a court of law. I have not heard any of those media figures talk about the Maryland mother who was a U.S. citizen.
Let alone the senator from Maryland who now wants to fly to El Salvador to show solidarity with a Salvadorian national whose family remains in Maryland.
Just because the left pushes it over and over and over again doesn't make it true. And the social media and the idiots on social media literally believe everything they fucking hear from the left, and then they tell us on the right that we believe everything that we hear, but we actually do some of our research, and they don't. It's pretty obvious. These fucking people are advocating for an MS13 member that came from El Salvador, entered the U.S. illegally, committed crimes, got caught, was told he was proven to be an El Salvador MS-13 gang member by 2 separate deportation courts, had an order for deportation, got deported to his home country in El Salvador, and El Salvador said, yeah, you are an MS-13 gang member. That's why we're going to put you in CCOT. And they put him there. And then the left says that nobody has proven he's an MS-13 gang member. And then the left wants to talk about these fucking pieces of shit more than they talk about American citizens who are actually injured by illegal immigrants. Like, what has this world come to? What has the other side come to when they can't even advocate for people from our own country anymore? They don't even care about Americans anymore, and they expect us to give a fuck about people who aren't even Americans anymore. They have lost their mind. I digress. Let's go ahead and roll this next clip.
It's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. As 2 immigration courts found that he was a member of MS-13. When President Trump declared MS-13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States.
I have heard over and over and over again that this guy has not had due process. How in the world do 2 immigration courts figure out and agree that he is an MS13 member if he has not had due process. The fucking definition of due process is going before a judge. He's had due process twice. Then he gets to El Salvador and they say, yep, MS13. That's 3 times he's been confirmed to be an MS13 member, and the left is still advocating for this piece of shit scumbag asshole. Our media is crazy. And they had the nerve, Caitlin Collins had the nerve to ask President Bukele if he would send this guy back to America, and his response is beautiful. She's fucking preposterous, and he tells her to her face. Let's go ahead and watch this clip.
I mean, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
But you could release him inside El Salvador.
Yeah, but I'm not releasing, I mean, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. We just turned the murder capital of the world to the safest country in the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? That's not going to happen.
The left is pretending like they know the history of MS-13 in El Salvador and how MS-13 literally took over the streets and communities of El Salvador and was making people pay ransom and was murdering and killing and pillaging and raping their own communities for years until Bukele came in and literally declared war on the gangs. That country does not want to go back to having gang members all over their street. And it is preposterous what she is asking, and they're dumb for not knowing the history of what's going on in that country and having questions that are so fucking offensive. Why? After they had such a dangerous country, he turned it into something beautiful, a paradise where they have very limited crime now. And these people are asking, why don't you release the gang member in your community? They have laws against it because of what has happened in the past, aka the history they have with these gangs. We have made, not we, but President Trump and his cabinet has made this country safer, much safer. In the first 100 days, it still has not been 100 days that President Trump has been in office, and the country has changed dramatically. So many changes have already occurred. The left, their heads are spinning. And they don't know what to do. And that's why they're just clinging on to everything, even if it's not even a winning situation. Like this, trying to keep this fucking retard in the country or bring him back from El Salvador and saying that there's no proof or no evidence that he's a gang member. There's pictures online of his hand and the tattoos on his hand. Marijuana, smiley face, cross, skull, those are all signs. MS, marijuana, smiley face, MS. It's pretty fucking simple. If you got the tattoos of the gang, if you walk like a duck, talk like a duck, act, quack like a duck, then you're probably a fucking duck. And this isn't new knowledge. These policies are saving lives. Let's go ahead and roll the next clip.
Illegal aliens who come to our country have to be removed, and they have to be removed quickly, and that is an essential component of having something that we like to call a country. The amount of lives that we've saved since we showed up by shutting down the border, since President Trump issued his executive orders and began deporting criminals, is already in the thousands. The stories we've already uncovered of sex trafficking and labor trafficking and child abuse is beyond imagination.
If we don't have immigration laws, then we don't have citizenship. And that means that every person on the entire planet could be a citizen of the United States, which means our votes and everything is compromised at that point. But the fact of the matter is we are America. We're the United States of America. We have a constitution. We have laws on the books, and we will follow the laws. The left is over there and trying to interpret them in different kinds of ways, or whatever way that they see it from their angle or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that we do have these laws on the books. And the Supreme Court has said that President Trump has the power to do what he's doing, and his executive orders have been so beneficial to the American people, has made this country safer. Let's go ahead and roll this next clip.
I worked for the greatest president of my lifetime, Donald Trump. Trump 45 is successful, unprecedented, and we're even doing better this time. President Trump, I give him all the credit because he put executive actions in place day one. He re-implemented the policies that we proved were effective. Right now, as we speak today, because of President Trump, the men and women of ICE and the men and women of the Border Patrol who stand on that line every day, today we have the most secure border in the history of this nation. No one can argue. The data's clear on that. I started in 1984. I've never seen the numbers this low. So again, the most secure border in the history of this nation, President Trump was able to do that in a matter of weeks, something that Biden administration didn't do in 4 years. Either wouldn't or couldn't, but we proved it didn't need legislation, didn't need all this other stuff that the last administration talked about. We needed a strong president who took America first and cared about American safety and securing that border.
You know what, folks? This is what we voted for. And it's beautiful. And the left is flipping out and tweaking out and flopping around and crying and kicking and screaming and whining and can't wipe their snot and tears. And we all knew this was going to happen. And I'm so happy that the day is here. I can't forget. We can all not forget what it was like in, the last 4 years of underneath Joe Biden and his fucking weird ass administration. The most transparent administration I've ever seen. This guy and everybody in the cabinet is literally out there every single day giving us updates about what's going on. We didn't hear from Biden for months on end. Didn't hear from anybody but KGP. And all she would do is spout a bunch of bullshit for the media to talk about. I'm very thankful for Donald Trump. Thank you, everybody who voted for Donald Trump. And the times are going to get better for us, I promise. And these lefties are not going to be able to talk about any of this bullshit because literally the points that they're pushing carry no weight. In time, they're all going to be diluted. And they're not going to be able to stand behind what they're saying now. Just like they can't stand behind this fucking retarded gang member that they're trying to advocate for and bring back to America. We all know that's never going to happen. They're kicking and pounding and screaming, and it's for no point. There's no win that they can have. They keep on fighting these losing topics. But for us, that's a great thing. Let's go ahead and roll this next clip.
And I am unfortunately going to announce on your show tonight, Sean, and I want it to be a warning for everybody, that I have instructed my office today to open an investigation into Governor Murphy, to open an investigation into Attorney General Platkin, who has also instructed the state police not to assist any of our federal agencies that are under my direction. Pam Bondi has made it clear, and so has our president, that we are to take all violent criminals out of this country and to completely enforce federal law. Who does get in the way of what we are doing, which is not political, it is simply against crime, will be charged in the state of New Jersey for obstruction, for concealment, and I will come after them hard. Those investigations will start immediately.
The people behind these sanctuary cities and the people that are not cooperating with ICE, I think these days are coming to a close. And behind the scenes right now, there's cases being put together. I think in the next 6 months, the Trump administration, the FBI, they're going to be arresting some pretty big players for some pretty major crimes that they're just not putting out there right now. I think what's going to happen is it's going to be taken down like a huge indictment of a gang or something. They're going to hit a bunch of politicians all at once so that these people can't flee to other countries because once your criminal organization or your little ring gets hit, one person, you take off. You know what's coming. So I think the FBI has dealt with criminals long enough that they know they got to hit everybody all at once and that they got to put all the evidence together. I think within the next 6 months, we're going to see some major updates and some major arrests on some people that we really want to see arrested. So with that, let's just get into this next clip.
If you did commit a crime, if you ordered obstruction, if you are ordering concealment and harboring, you will be charged.
Well, I'm going to give a nice little warning to the AG and the governor. If you want to go against Alina Habba, good luck.
Tom Homan, Kash Patel, and our boy Dan Bongino, they're all getting these cases together right now, I promise you. Let's just give it some time, and during this presidency, this is going to be the most iconic presidency, I think, in the last 100 years. There's going to be some major things that happen, some major arrests, and I can't wait, and I know you guys can't either. But that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for joining me. We'll be back next Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and I hope you guys have a great week.
We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. God bless you and good night. I love you.